Thank you guys for checking out another episode of the D-Tubs podcast. The D-Tubs show. It is a podcast. That's amongst other things, apparently a Freudian slip on my part. This is the D-Tubs show. So thank you for tuning in again. We're going to run the Four Corner Offense. Run that in a long time. So Pat, Alan, Brian, hello, welcome. This is a safe place to have a tough conversation over a drink or two with a laugh along the way, which I'm sure we will do. So before we get started with what, I kind of wanted to unpack a little bit, we drink on this show. And so tonight, it's a Friday night. So I decided since it's Friday, I'm a big cognac guy. So what I'm drinking here is called ABK6. It is also known as the best cognac in the world. And no, you can't get it where I live. I had to bring it back from somewhere else. But those state secrets will stay with me. That being said, Patrick, what are we sipping on this evening?
Well, I've got two things. This is my Red Rocks beer glass, number one, which was, we took that from a beer garden out there. Right now it's Modelo. So I'm alternating between Modelo and it's a brewery from Colorado called, what is this? Juice Force IPA by New Belgium. So
Juice
I have Modelo.
Force.
Yeah, it's delicious. It's got a lot of high alcohol content. It's very good.
I know a guy that turns everything into a sexual innuendo, and he would have a field day with that name.
Yeah.
Yes.
He would.
That guy, salute, have fun with that. Brian, what are we sipping on tonight?
We are sipping on some Blackberry Crown.
Okay, that's the way to go.
That's fantastic. Hard to
stuff.
find, but definitely worth it if you can score it.
Yes, absolutely.
And Alan, last but not least.
In honor of our host, who was the first individual to identify that my fictional television alter ego is Ron Swanson.
That's right. I'm very proud of that. Very proud of that.
We've got a Lagavulin.
Nice.
16-year single malt.
Yes.
And of course, like Ron, I take it neat.
Right. Yeah. I can see right now that you probably have a late night steak and 7 pounds of bacon in your future, but I support this.
Yeah.
All right. So that being said, one of the few things I want to discuss with you guys, just your impressions of what this college football season has been, especially in the context of all these teams moving around, and now all of a sudden, like USC going to, Maryland is still a weird thing to me. That'll never be a thing. But your overall impressions of what you've seen so far, and who do you think has a, realistic chance to make the playoff? I'll just open it up.
Well, just to piggyback off of that, I think if they're not playing right now, they're getting ready to kick off shortly. Rutgers is at USC.
Hold on. So they got the World Series tonight. They've got
traffic in LA tonight is
they got the World Series. They got USC, Rutgers. They got Lakers, Lakers Suns. They got a high school game at SoFi, and they got something else. And there's 2 concerts, I think, going on somewhere.
Yeah, there's 2, and I think there's a couple big time high school games. So yeah, it's going to be good luck to everybody trying to get around.
Traffic in LA is stupid. Now you're talking about 5 can you just imagine Olympics in 4 years?
I think I think it's going to be the opposite because people who live there know that it's going to be crazy, so they'll just stay home. They just won't go anywhere for 2 weeks,
or they'll leave for 2 weeks.
Or they'll leave
put their house on VRBO. Yeah.
That's actually a smarter play, and then go to Tahiti with the money. That's actually not a bad idea.
But Dennis, I will say to your original question, I think what's interesting to me is that the impact of these huge conferences is it's harder to know anything. Because, it used to be back in the day, you would just look at, hey, you've got a 10-team conference, you play 9 conference games, whoever wins the most games is your best team. If there's a tie, whoever won their head-to-head game, that's the best team in the conference. But now the schedules are so different, so fewer common opponents, because week 1, that Texas win against Michigan seemed like a pretty big deal, and now it's not. And that Michigan win over USC seemed like a big deal. that game is an
In the
afterthought.
context of a playoff, yes.
Yeah. So the playoff will be crazy. I hope we get more conferences involved in it than what I think we will. Oregon's got the best win so far this season. Ohio State's got the best loss, in my humble opinion. I mean, Oregon looks a lot better than I thought. We've kind of seen the movie before with them, but they usually would get too cute or their alignment would be too small or all that kind of thing. But they look pretty good.
Yeah, this is not your
But,
father's Oregon, right?
No, it isn't. It isn't. And then, of course, Georgia kind of reminded everybody they're still here. And Lord, I mean, I don't even know how many losses Alabama's going to need to miss the playoff. I assume 5 or 6. So, so they may not be out of the picture yet either.
Bag. It's in the bag. There.
Well, they have 2 losses, right?
They have
They
2
lost
losses right now. Yeah,
Vandy and who else got them? Was it Texas?
Tennessee.
Oh,
Tennessee. It was
Tennessee,
Tennessee.
but then they almost South Carolina. They got Missouri tomorrow. They don't. I know everybody wants to come down on the new coach, but to be honest with you, and I heard somebody mention this the other day, so forgive me because I can't remember who it was. But if Bear Bryant is the best coach of all time and Saban's number 2, or vice versa, the only place you were going was down. It's like massively unrealistic to think that you were going to keep this going at a Nick Saban-like level when Saban isn't there. Like,
You don't want to follow him.
Especially at the NIL portal crossroads that hit at the same time, where now it's important for kids to be on the field to make more money. So it's like,
because it's professional sports. Like,
Pretty much. That's what it is.
In Texas the other day was the school board is asking for $60 million from its residents to build a football stadium for a high school. Like, I'm sorry, but that screams professional sports to me. Even at a high school level, you could be spending that money on education, but you guys want to put it on a football stadium. Like, I don't know. I don't want to be old man.
But I would
going
also
my lawn.
argue that Texas is the only state where that makes sense. For high school football, that's the only state in America that really makes sense.
I don't know that it makes sense.
Well, it makes sense.
Yeah,
in
it doesn't
Texas.
make sense. Makes sense to them.
Yeah, you're not doing that in Minnesota. You're not doing that in Ohio. You're not doing that in Nevada. You're not doing that. Maybe Florida. Maybe
Florida.
Maybe.
Florida.
But yeah, like at least 45 states in this union. That's probably a solid no.
Yeah.
But I will also say, it is cool. We're to the point where we learn something really good. We get some really good data points every week.
Mhm.
I think Ohio State, Penn State will inform a lot in terms of what the playoff picture looks like. And shit, Indiana, man. I mean, I know
That's what I texted you
Nebraska's
guys.
not
I was like,
great,
do we need to be
but-
concerned about Indiana?
I mean,
You
they've
do.
got the type of offense that can keep another
do.
offense off the field. So
Because Michigan's
see.
got them first, I believe, right?
I do.
Okay. Michigan's got them
They're
first.
what? Yeah, they're one of what undefeated. How many's left? Oregon,
I
them,
imagine there's probably 8 or 9.
Miami, BYU,
Yeah, BYU, my
Iowa
money in the
State,
bank.
maybe. I think Iowa State was. I think I looked at the
Iowa
polls
State's
earlier
undefeated
this
yeah.
week.
Yeah.
So there's a handful of undefeateds left, but in the top 10, I think there's only 2. I think is Indiana in the top 10 yet?
No,
Not
they're,
yet.
I
No.
think they're 13.
No.
I think they're like they're
13.
like yeah, they're like
They-
13.
They probably are like masquerading right between like 12 and 17.
Yeah.
Some-
So
there.
we have. I think we've talked about this over the years that eventually the college football, once NIL especially, when they kicked off, that it was going to become a super league type of thing, right? Where it's sort of like the NFL. And I think that's what it is now. When you talk about the Big Ten being coast to coast, it's definitely has that feel. And you got the SEC, which is basically just everything in the South and the Southwest now. When you got Texas and
A&M.
A&M, all those
Arkansas,
schools are. You got those. All of that's over there now. But no, I mean, I don't think the losses are going to hurt you as much. And to Alan's point earlier, how many it's going to take for Alabama to be out of it? Probably 3. I'm
Yeah.
guessing, but
But I would think
I
it'll
feel
probably be 3
4.
for a lot of people too.
it's going to be some combination of.
I mean,
Well,
it's
we all-
going to be a Big Ten SEC playoff with like
That's
three
that's it right there. It's going to be who's going to bring eyeballs to the games that
Not
are
even
going to be
playoff,
put on,
it'd be
right?
an invitational. It'll be the Big Ten SEC Invitational, and they might let some other schools in, but that's sort of down the line. I thought Texas was the best squad, and then Georgia went and beat them up. To me, it just feels like the whole thing is wide open, which all of a sudden swings me back to somebody like a Georgia or like an Ohio State that had a loss. If they could kind of run the rest of the table, like those are probably the teams that are kind of like on the like I guess let me say it this way. Based on what I've seen, in no particular order, Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, and Georgia are the 4 best schools I've seen so far.
I can't argue that.
Now,
I think what makes it hard, I agree.
Yeah.
The challenge, and this is a football thing for right now, anyways. But like, you guys know me. I'm a Bills fan who lost to a Giants team that was starting Jeff Hostetler at quarterback. I don't like teams that can't hold the ball for 7 minutes and win a game in football. Even in this new era, at the end of the day, if I can keep you off the field for half a quarter, I'm going to beat you. And I think that's what makes it, because that's been my issue with Ohio State for the last 4 years. Is all of the 87 All-Pro wide receivers come out of there, and all of these talented running backs and these quarterbacks. But if you can't grind, a lot of times you don't win, and I don't know that anybody can. So that makes it even more wide open this year.
Problem if they sub their defensive line out, like they refuse to their defensive line. So you get a school like Michigan the last 3 years that wants to play in a phone booth. First, second quarter, everything's tight, but come fourth quarter, when this guy's played 60 plays, meanwhile Michigan's defensive line, because they rotate, they play 20, 30 snaps, and they just go hard on every snap. That adds up over the course of a season, let alone the biggest game of the year. So I don't disagree with you. I guess the question I have for you guys, since you guys all sort of, since it's wide open, and Brian, I guess this is more for you. If they expand the playoff, I feel like it's inevitable. What ideally would be your ideal college football playoff format?
I mean, I'm good with 12. I mean, honestly, I think you probably could have been good with 8, to be honest with you. I wouldn't want to see it any more than 16. Because I think mathematically 16 makes sense, but I think that even then, I think that's probably a bit too big, but I wouldn't go any further than 16. But we'll see how the money goes. But I could see them going to 16 in the same way that they're talking about expanding the March Madness tournament, right? Was it like 96?
Yeah, I don't want that.
Yeah, we can't do that.
It's fine. But
But
what I'm saying is I could see them making the argument for that because the money's there, or you know what I mean. But for college football, I wouldn't want it to go any further than 16, because you have 4 power conferences, right? As it stands right now. Sorry, Pac-12, RIP. But
the NFL is 16, right? It's 8 on each side.
no,
right?
it's 14. It's
14
7 on each
now.
side. Only the top team gets a bye. Yeah. So
I think my only thing I would like to see a re-emphasis on the record. Because one of the things when I was a kid that made college football amazing was if you lost a game,
Pressure of it.
yeah. And so the fact that every game, you had 3 months worth of playoff games, and that was cool. So I would like to somehow reward, because like it's the same attitude. You guys have known me for a long time. It's the same attitude I have towards March Madness, where I would rather see 31-3 Utah State in the NCAA tournament than 20-13 NC State. Because like, do I think Utah State's the best team in the country? No, but I know NC State is because of their record. So
There's
at
no
least throw in the team that's been killing everybody.
30 games in college basketball, you can't convince me you're a bad team.
Right. So I would like to see them adopt a similar mentality again, to where like for example, this year, where like if BYU runs the table, they get a seat at the table. I don't care what conference they're in.
They win the Big 12, they're going to have a seat at the table. Like,
Well, and even thinking like, but
even like an at-large, if they didn't win, right?
Yeah, like if you run the table, you should be in the playoff.
Mhm.
Because like if Alabama's got 2 losses, I've already got a pretty good idea. They lost to 2 teams, so they're not the best team in the country.
But hold on, but who you lose to matters. If they can just lose to anybody, they lost to Vandy. Like, I think it's pretty clear in this format where we're headed. If you lose more than 2 games, you can forget it. You can write the year off. To your point, Alan, we got 3 months worth of playoff games because of the old format, but I would argue this is going to be the most intense November you've ever seen. Because literally almost every game in every conference now has playoff implication. It'll feel like week 15, 16 of an NFL season, which I personally like. But I think at least if I thought it was going to expand, I think the way it expands, that makes the most sense, but people will not go for this because people are greedy. You move from 12 to 16. You keep this whole idea of your top 4 conference champs get, the top 4 seeds. You can keep that aspect of it. And then you go from 1 group of 5 to 2 group of 5 that get in automatically. The best 2 group of 5. But if you did it that way, that would be 6 automatic spots for those slots. And then it's 10 at-larges. And the way this is probably going to break, if you did it that way, the SEC is probably going to get 4 teams in. The Big Ten will get another 3, and that gets you to 7. And then the ACC and the Big 12 fight it out for those last 3 spots. That's probably how this shakes out. And then with it being 16, the teams that today would get a bye because they won their conference will now get a home playoff game. And that's, to me, Pat, to your point, is where the money's at. Because if I get to host a game, so let's say this plays out and everything holds, Ohio State hypothetically is a 5 or a 6 seed. Let's say they're 5 and they host, say, Boise State, who runs the table. Ohio State getting a home game in December against anybody is so unique and so special that the revenue for that's going to be through the roof. The best part of a format like that is, let's say the 11 seed, Ohio State the 6 seed, let's say, and let's say the 11 seed is Ole Miss or Florida State. Now you boys got to come from 70-degree weather in early November, and you got to come up here and play it. It might be 25 degrees.
They'll be fine.
Listen, you all
one game.
Hold on, but you all, and people will say that's an unfair advantage and this and the third, but if you want to play pro football, what are you going to do when Buffalo or Green Bay drafts you?
Oh, that's what I'm saying. They'll be fine. They'll figure out how to play one game in the cold.
Yeah. Well, I do want to go ahead.
It's not 1968. It's not 1968. They got those heaters that blow on them and everything else. I mean, they'll be okay. It's uncomfortable, but they'll be okay. The speed will still translate in cold weather.
Professionals do. These college kids don't do that. At least down south, they don't. And that sort of levels the playing field because, all of a sudden, let's say Minnesota rises up and has a Drew Brees at Purdue type of year, right? If they rise to that and they have an outdoor stadium and Mississippi State has to go to Minnesota in early December, you're telling me Minnesota's not licking their chops waiting for them.
I have to say, I see where you're coming from, but I'm more in Patrick's camp where, again, maybe back in the day when you practiced in it, but all these teams practice. This is just as much of a shock to the northern kids now because you're practicing in these $1 million indoor 70-degree facilities.
With you more. I could not agree with you more.
And most of these Buckeye recruits are Floridians and Southern kids now and California guys.
It is a little more global. I'll give you that. But the kids that grew up here, there are kids that are playing in the SEC that have never seen snow.
True. Yeah.
And we're talking about the mental capacity of 18 to 22-year-old young men. It's not unreasonable to think they walk into Happy Valley early December and get shook by 100,000 people all dressed in white.
Well, true.
At 20 degrees going nuts.
But at the same time, those kids, they go crazy in the South too. So I don't know that. I don't think.
Yeah, I'm not saying that those aren't hard places to play. I'm saying if you give me 2 hard places to play, but one's 70 degrees and one's 25 degrees, I think that place at 25 degrees is a little harder to play in. That's all. That's the only point I'm making.
All right, I won't argue that. That's probably, you're right about that. All right.
Right. So that being said, So that being said, who do you think realistically, based on what you've seen so far, who do you think you have the most confidence in that'll make a run and win the title? Not win it, but make a serious run at it, because there are too many variables involved. It's too wide open. I think it's too early to pin you guys down, but who do you think, based on what you've seen, can make a real run for the title?
I mean, Oregon's the best team I've seen.
I think pound for pound. I think if everybody plays their A game pound for pound, I think Georgia can be tough to beat.
I was going to say Oregon or Georgia. I think those are the two best teams that I've seen play. I mean, Georgia lost to Alabama in what was one of the wildest games I've ever seen. And that's kind of a toss-up because that was in Alabama, wasn't it?
It was on the road.
So
they fell down early, and then they came back and took the lead, I believe.
That's a wild, kind of crazy game, and it was fun to watch. But, I mean, I think Georgia and Oregon, honestly.
And I guess to that extent, I guess you could probably include Ohio State only because they went toe-to-toe on the road and they lost by a point. We can argue about the ending, but, certainly that game was 7 lead changes. It was back and forth. Either one of them could have won that game. So I guess
ending where they mismanaged the clock. Is that what you're talking about?
Well,
there's a lot that last 15, 20 seconds.
But also,
I don't.
You know what? I was talking with somebody about this specifically, and this person said that Oregon cheated, and I was like, "Is it cheating if they exploited a loophole? If you exploit a loophole, bullshit. That's not cheating. It's just they closed the loophole.
It just makes you president."
Thank you for what you said and how you said it, Tubbs, because they closed the loophole right after that.
So you can't say you're cheating if you exploit the loophole.
I don't feel like Oregon cheated. What I feel like is I don't think anybody could have walked into that building on that night and beat Oregon. That is a very hard place to play. And I think what's underrated about these super conferences, but specifically the Big Ten and to a lesser extent the Big 12, is the travel. It's one thing to travel in conference to a road game. It's another thing to fly across country.
Like 3 time zones matters.
Well, to Minnesota, Michigan, and Maryland already from LA. Now, I know they're charter planes and the whole nine, but if you've been on a plane longer than 4 hours, it's like, okay, like I've had about enough of this. Like I need to get out of here.
You goddamn right.
Right. So to me, I kind of lean towards push comes to shove. I think George is the answer to the question, but I would feel better about Ohio State if they go to Penn State and win.
I just saw today that I guess they opened as a 3.5 point favorite.
Hosting Ohio State?
Ohio State is a 3.5 point favorite.
Ooh,
I'm fucking taking Penn State on that game, boys. Woo! I'll take 3.5 right now if I can get it.
I'd be tempted to take the points, but
I'll take Penn State getting 3.5. Absolutely, that's happening.
But I think if Ohio State beats Penn State and basically gets to the Michigan game with only the Oregon loss, I would feel better about them because I feel like they've been seasoned enough. But I don't think offensively they didn't play bad, but defensively, every time we got a big game, the defense just disappears. I don't know what to do with the defense.
Oh, I don't want to lean too heavy into the Ohio State dissection because they got their defense was not great against Oregon. I don't know if Penn State players are as good as Oregon's players. So, as we like to talk about all the time, usually the talent will win out, right? So Ohio State will probably beat Penn State. Probably.
Pat, you got to assume that at home, the talent is at least equal to Oregon.
Home. Well, but they're familiar with Penn State. They have to play at Penn State this year.
Yeah.
So they've been there. They know these guys. I think James Franklin is John Cooper. He can't win big games, right? He's very good at everything except.
But the playoff is tailor-made for him, though. So now that he can get into the playoffs.
Yeah, he might scrape in a team or two. Yeah, a team or two.
He's going to get in every year at 10-2 because
maybe
at 10-2 is a Big Ten team is going to the playoff every year. Time. Said it a different way, if we'd had a 12-team playoff during Tressel's era, we would have never missed the playoff. That man was perpetually, at a minimum, 10-2, occasionally 11-1, and when it all
he was steady,
defeated. Tressel was never going to be like 8-4 or 7-5. It was never going to happen.
No, but I want to make one more quick comment on while we're talking about college football. Is everybody aware that the U is undefeated and
Yes.
they have a really good quarterback named, what is it, Cam
Cam
Ward?
Ward, yeah.
Dude is good. I mean, I would like Miami to upset the apple cart. I don't think they have enough talent to do it, but I would really enjoy seeing the
Listen,
revival
be
of
fun.
the
I have a
90s.
good friend of mine who is a massive Hurricanes fan, and I know another guy who's a big Hurricane fan. So shout out to y'all. I am indifferent about Miami because Miami wants to live in the past. They're like Bears fans that eat out on the 85 Bears all the time. They always want to talk about what happened, 30 years ago and 40 years ago and 20 years ago. I'm not interested in any of
I
that.
know who you're talking about.
But as long as the Hurricanes beat Clemson, that's all I care about. Just beat Clemson. I do not like Clemson because I think Dabo Swinney is a clown. I think that guy is a charlatan of the highest order. I
I
don't.
hate his name.
Matter of fact, me and Tubbs went to the Iowa game, Ohio State Iowa game, and there was a dude at the tailgate that had a homage shirt, and I couldn't figure out who it was. I said, "My man, who's on your shirt?" Because I know I've seen it. It was Dabo Swinney's face with a clown nose. I said, I need that shirt because if I have to dress up for Halloween, that's what I'm
That's
going
what I
as,
want.
as Dabo Swinney.
What are you,
The,
Dabo the
the only
clown?
thing I will say is I agree with you wholeheartedly, and that, but unfortunately, that just makes him a college football coach.
Yeah, they're all pretty.
I mean,
they're all
these
pretty
guys are all
decent.
I was
clowns.
going to say one that doesn't
Yeah.
accept transfers, but that's a different discussion for a different day.
Yeah.
But the
So-
Buckeyes have Ryan Day, who's clearly dyeing his beard, hair, and everything else he dyes.
Listen. He's
Sorry,
given,
Ryan.
for the first time in 4 or 5 years, he's giving me real John Cooper vibes.
I've been saying that for the last 3 years, guys. You guys
No,
get the
no.
text.
It took
If-
me a minute to get there, but I'm there now where this level of talent, because Cooper amassed some of the best college football teams I've ever seen from a
Ever.
team perspective. And
Cooper
yet,
might have had the best talent in any school for a decade in the 90s.
at any given
Top
point,
to bottom.
I mean, at the height of USC and Texas and whoever you want, if you go back and look at those teams, you can't convince me that this NFL team we got out here, how are we losing? And how are we getting doors blown off? That's another story.
Well, unfortunately, Cooper also had the Big Ten was a monster, and I know we're probably going over time on
Yeah.
college football, but I mean, you
Yeah.
even had to worry about Purdue and Illinois, and I mean,
Then you did. Yeah.
everybody was good. Nobody was running the table.
17 running backs. Like, yeah, it was
Real quick, just to button this up for college. My first game that I ever went to, and I think I told you guys this, but I'll share it with these people who were 5 people that will listen to this. Maybe
Hey,
10.
I got a bigger audience than that.
Well, okay. We'll
7.
see how the numbers go. But my first game I went to as in 1989, I told you guys this, was against Indiana. Okay, Ohio State, Indiana at the shoe. My dad takes me to the game. And Ohio State lost. This was Cooper's second year, maybe. Like it was 89 or 90. It's because Indiana had Von Dunbar.
I was
One
going to say it
star.
had to be Von Dunbar.
He was there 2 years, and I think he led the Big Ten in rushing 2 years in Indiana. And that might have been the last time. I'd have to look it up. That might have been the last time Ohio State lost to Indiana at home. Was that game? That
When they still had the track in there.
Yeah,
There
it
are
was
people
crazy.
in there are people in my family that still talk about Von Dunbar to this day.
He lit Ohio State up,
Ohio State
like
up.
Tim Biakabatuka a few years later would do.
Right, exactly. So speaking of getting lit up, it's over for my Giants. We've been getting lit up left and right. It's over for them. We're gonna go to Pittsburgh on Monday, and it's gonna be bad. It's the blood's gonna be spilled. It's gonna be bad. And my coach and GM have already gotten the dreaded, vote of confidence. We're not gonna get rid of him because he can't. Because he fires coaches every 2 years, and we can't be like that. So he's got to ride it out. So from an NFL perspective, from what I've seen, Detroit is clearly the best team in the league. I know Kansas City's undefeated, but Detroit is the best team I've seen. And the best thing I've heard about Detroit this year is every team that plays Detroit loses the following week. And that held true because Minnesota lost last night to the Rams. Detroit is the best team I've seen but I saw Rex Ryan say they might be the best team, but I think they lost the war because their best defensive player is out for the year.
Hutchinson going down is a big deal for them.
I'm curious,
Big deal.
what sort of themes have you seen or have emerged in your mind from an NFL perspective in terms of just observations you guys have had?
Besides the Kansas City Chiefs getting every call, we'll just table that, put a pin in it. That doesn't matter because everybody knows that. The Chiefs.
I will say, speaking of the Chiefs, I think they're playing with fire. I mean, I think that they, I think a good demonstration of it was that cutesy little sideline play that Mahomes had the other night when it looked like he was going out of bounds, so they didn't kill him. And then he ran another 30 yards.
That one. Yeah, that was great, wasn't it?
Because it's like, I'll tell you what now, next time, man, you're about to get fucking Drew Bledsoe, buddy. And hey, and they're going to take the fine, and they're going to take all of that to lay your ass out.
In 1987, what does Lawrence Taylor do to that motherfucker?
God. But
He treats him like Joe Theismann is what he does.
Yeah. I feel like the Chiefs are playing with fire a little bit. And they've got a great defense, which keeps winning them games. But
that would be my point, Alan. Is I think they're getting by mainly on defense. They're not really necessarily getting by on offense. Kelsey is kind of older now. I'm not going to say he's old, but he's older, so he's not really doing as much. And I don't want to say they're getting by off reputation, but certainly a strong defense is going to help them out. And then certainly, when they get down, you have Patrick Mahomes back there.
So I'm glad
who's gonna get every whistle.
You breathe on him at 16 yards.
So Matt, to you and Brian's point, do you feel like there is a New England-like quality to them in the sense of people might be defeated before they ever play them?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you think that's in play here?
Hey, especially going to Kansas City,
their
yes.
punches from
Going
the
to Kansas City, yes, I 1,000% believe.
Yeah, if you go to play there in January in a playoff game, you're going to get fucked more than likely. More than likely, because my question to the panel is, if you've seen the AFC teams, we're week 8, 9, I don't know where we're at.
Yeah, we're about halfway through.
Who's going to beat them? If they continue to win and get home field advantage, who's going to beat them?
Honestly,
Buffalo can't do it.
Baltimore's your only hope.
Baltimore can't maybe can do it. But
they're your only hope.
We're going to see the fucking Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
Can I
again.
throw my Pittsburgh Steelers out there? I'm just throwing it out there.
You can.
One team that can overcome.
You can, but has your running back
Misfortune.
scored a touchdown yet?
Yes.
In the ground?
Yes, he has 2.
Did he finally get one?
Yeah, he got 2. He has 2 in the year. I only suggest them because, and this is a big if, they got a top 5, top 10 defense, right?
Yeah, Watt's pretty good. Watt's probably the defensive player of the year.
And this is going to be interesting, but if they stick with Russ and they're able to open that offense up like they did on the Jets, maybe, and again, this is a long shot. I'm a fan. This is a very stretch, maybe, because I'm not confident in Buffalo and maybe Baltimore.
No, can't be.
So there has to probably be a third team out there. And I just don't see it.
If there's ever a team
the problem you're still
right now at 5-2.
Yeah. The problem the Steelers have is your wide receivers are fucking hot garbage, and you know it.
Well, yeah. Well, one of them's not when he wants to play. But
okay, one is okay. But my point is,
but yes.
I don't think they have enough guns.
But how good do your wide receivers have to be in today's NFL? I mean, good God, you can't defend anybody.
Well, they don't have to be great because look at the Chiefs. They keep winning.
Yeah.
And they don't have a receiver.
Who's
their receiver?
Well, they just give receivers that
they
fit their
just signed
system, which is
one
different.
guy.
One guy. That's really good for our
Oh.
listeners, Alf.
Well, I couldn't remember if he had abused a wife or if he had done other crimes. So I was challenged to see which criminal the Chiefs were allowed to sign without the media.
Listen,
their
Rice
mind.
is the guy you're talking about. Is the guy with the drag racing?
Oh,
right?
right.
And then,
yes.
But they just traded for DeAndre Hopkins, and they signed
Yeah, that's
Juju
the
Smith-Schuster,
steroid guy.
and
That's
they
what
have-
it was.
DeAndre,
Yeah.
he's the steroid guy. Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
Alan, I struggle with that because I saw what Justin Jefferson did yesterday just in the first quarter. And it was a good reminder that when you have a real, true number one receiver married with a scheme that could get him open and a quarterback that could get him the ball, It is a massive difference. And then on the other side, here is Stafford dealing all night with a 5th-round pick and Puka Nacua that no one had ever heard of. And I think an undrafted free agent Cooper Kupp, or maybe a 7th-round pick. I don't know how to answer that question other than to say, I'll say it this way. In the AFC, the dark horse team is still Cincinnati.
That is
Shut the fuck up.
That is the one spot.
They're done. They're done.
Team lightning in a bottle. I got 2 Super Bowls off Eli, off of lightning in a bottle.
What's their record?
Does not
They
go.
have like what, 2 wins?
Listen, 3-4. They're 3-4 and host the Eagles on Sunday.
They're going to lose that game.
They're a dark horse. Listen, if it's not Baltimore and it's not Buffalo, maybe it's Pittsburgh.
We already said the teams.
We take a flyer on Cincinnati because Burrow's the one guy that's beating.
Well, he has, but we already said the AFC teams. So it's the Chiefs, it's Baltimore, it's Pittsburgh, and what was the other one?
Buffalo?
Was there one more? That's it, right?
Buffalo, Baltimore.
Buffalo's in there. Let's talk about the NFC for a minute. Your division, because you're a Giants fan.
No. Nobody in my division is winning the Super Bowl.
Of course not. I know. I mean, it's exciting to see the Redskins actually being.
Hold on.
I just called them the Redskins.
No,
now,
it's okay.
listen, listeners.
It's okay.
I'm 47. They were called the Redskins my whole life until I was 45. or something
After
like
canceled.
Listen,
that. Yeah, don't
we
fuck
were
with me. On it.
kids and the Raiders played in L.A., my father would be like, "What time does Oakland come on?" And then as soon as they moved back to Oakland, he would say, "What time does L.A. come on?" And it happens. We're old men now. It happens.
Yeah.
What scares me about Washington, and I said this the other day when we were out watching games with me and a couple of homeboys. What scares me about them is for the first time, probably in my lifetime, because they've never had a franchise quarterback in my lifetime. Gibbs won a Super Bowl 3 times with 3 different quarterbacks.
Rippin, go ahead.
Doug Williams.
Doug Williams.
Doug Williams,
Jeff
Rippin, and who
Joe
was it?
Theismann. They've
Joe Theismann.
never had a franchise.
That Rippin one was garbage, by the way.
That Rippin one was garbage.
Yes,
Were they
yes,
playing the Bills? And they
Yeah,
should have.
they were
The
playing
Bills
the
had a
Bills in
superior
Minnesota-
team
in
and lost
Minnesota.
to the Redskins.
That was the day that
yeah.
the NFL Man of the Year, Andre Reed, took his helmet off and threw it across the field because he was being held every play.
They lost that game because they played it in Minnesota, and that was an atrocity. They should have never played that game in Minnesota, but that's a whole other story for another day. They scare me because for the first time in my lifetime, they actually have a franchise quarterback. I've never been worried about Washington ever in my life because as long as Dan Snyder owned the team, they shit down their leg. You didn't have to worry about them. It was always an Eagles-Cowboys sort of discussion, and things ebb and flow. They got themselves a quarterback now, and I would argue he's better than Jalen Hurts, and he's playing better than Dak Prescott, and he's on a rookie deal. They have
playing better than Patrick Mahomes.
Hold on. I hear what you're saying. Okay. Let me just take a pause and say that he's a rookie. Okay. And we saw another rookie light it up last year. His name is CJ Stroud.
Yes.
He's not having a great year this year. And I know because I have him in fantasy league.
As do I.
I've thrown a few parlays with him involved in hitting some milestones, and he didn't do it for me. My point is, let's take
last week. I would agree with you
Yeah.
there. 86.
Let's just take a minute and say, yes, he looks good in this rookie campaign, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. And if I say this to Alan, I'll say, Alan, let's remember what Harvey Keitel said to those guys in Pulp Fiction. Let's not do that. Let's not do that yet.
And like you've heard me say 1,000 times, Patrick, and actually all of you probably have, there's a very long list of quarterbacks that looked good for 8 to 16 games. Very long list.
But I will agree with Dennis's point, because on the surface, he seems like, of all the stuff I'm hearing about and reading, is he's getting he's doing all the
Their
stuff.
defense
He's
is
putting
all
the
right.
work in. Yeah, their defense is solid. They got a decent coach. Look, I'm behind it. You're right, but let's just get this.
Now, listen, what you're talking about is what I'm hoping for, that it's a 16-game sample and it looks like
you're a Giants fan.
left. But I've seen enough you've seen enough football to know who can play and who can't. CJ Stroud might have hit a bit of a sophomore slump, but overall, the only quarterbacks I would not take over him, honestly, are Burrow, Mahomes, Jackson, Allen, and maybe Jared Goff. Every other quarterback in the league right now, I'll take C.J. Stroud over every other quarterback in the league outside of those 4 or 5.
But Dennis, I will
Yeah.
say, going back to how Patrick took us to the NFC, I mean, it feels, especially watching the Niners the other day, God, it feels like a stretch to see any NFC team being able to beat Detroit.
I don't know.
Honestly-
It's probably Detroit. You're
I'll
right.
say this.
Yeah.
The way that they went to Minnesota was up the whole time. Minnesota came back, and then Detroit made all the plays at the end, and they're clutch. The only team I could see really pushing them is Green Bay.
Green Bay. I was just going to say that. Yeah, Green Bay.
I think
Yeah.
they play Green Bay this week or next. No, I think it's next week they play Green Bay.
Green Bay has that other quarterback that was a rookie last year. Yeah,
And-
Jordan
and-
Love.
and what I was-
yeah, he's
and then-
pretty good.
I said what I said
Jordan
earlier
Love's good.
because in my mind, there's like tiers of quarterbacks, right? So Mahomes is
We'll
in a
do it
class by
live.
himself because he's the only current person that owns more than one Super Bowl. Only Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers and Stafford own a Super Bowl. And that they just have one. Mahomes is the only one with 3, so he's on another level. He's the top level. After that, the next level in my mind are Burrow, Allen, and Mahomes, or Burrow, Allen, and Lamar. They are in a class by themselves.
Yeah. I'll go with that.
Then
Yeah.
there's a third tier where Stroud, Jordan Love, Jared Goff, Stafford, maybe Herbert, Kirk Cousins, they kind of Dak Prescott. They live on that
Kyler Murray.
third level.
Kyler Murray. Sometimes Kyler
No.
Murray. He's
And
pretty
then
good.
that
Sometimes.
fourth tier is like your Kyler Murray,
Yeah.
a Jalen Hurts, a quarterback like a Geno Smith, like Sam Darnold. What I'm trying to get at is there are more than one way to win a Super Bowl. But the way the NFL's gone is I need to get a quarterback. He needs to be really good. I need to get him on a rookie deal. I got my window open and I can win. What I think, and people feel like if you don't get that specific combination of things, you can't win a Super Bowl. But what I would argue is, no, I think you can win a Super Bowl with a guy like Kirk Cousins or Geno Smith or Baker Mayfield.
Trent Dilfer did it.
You just have
Already.
to build your roster different around
do.
a guy like that because Trent Dilfer did it, Brad Johnson did it,
Brad
Joe
Johnson.
Flacco did it,
Yep.
Eli Manning did it twice. You can win a Super Bowl with a quarterback that is not a top 5 or top 10 quarterback. You just have to build your team different. But this holy grail of I need to get a quarterback and it's got to be on a rookie deal. Like San Francisco's been playing with house money for the last 3 years.
I think you just said it, though.
Last pick in the draft.
I don't think anybody's doing that anymore, right? They're not building. They want the QB. There's a template now where there
like
didn't
they're
used to be,
convinced.
where these coaches were in the, even 20 years ago. I use Dilfer with Baltimore because, they had a disgustingly good defense and they had 2 or 3 Hall of Famers on defense for 7 years. And they had a really good running game and
And
serviceable
ridiculous special teams.
special. Yeah. But my point is, like, that team was built that way. And you said the Buccaneers with Brad Johnson, they had a really good defense. I just don't think they build teams like that. Who's playing defense anymore? You can't, right? Alan, we don't get to play defense in the NFL because they throw too many flags on everybody for doing shit that we used to see 20 years ago. It's gone.
Well,
Remember, I guess they just don't build the game. The game's not like that.
But Pat, to your point, Baltimore's defense last year was hyped as being like really, really good, right? And then the playoffs came, and I felt like they played the Chiefs to basically a standstill. But the Chiefs defense made a few more plays than they made. I feel like you can still play defense, but you're never going to get the defense you're never going to get an 85 Bears level defense anymore. You're not going to get a 2000 Ravens like defense anymore because I just think offensively they schemed it and the rules have allowed for it to where McVay and everybody that comes off that Shanahan tree, they scheme guys open and guys are just wide open by NFL standards. Just complete what like the first quarter of the game yesterday. This is Vikings at Rams. They scored on the first two drives. It was 14-14 after
I saw it.
two drives. Like, this is all scripted. Like, it's boom, 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 boom. Like, I think
Jefferson runs really good routes, by the way.
Jefferson had
Justin
78
Jefferson.
yards in the first quarter.
But he runs really good routes, and Darnold was putting the ball in really
By
good
the way,
spots for him.
Wait, real quick. For all you guys that like to gamble, if you play these games first and just play first quarter stats over under, you can make a killing on those first quarter stats because I was damn close last night. Damn close last
We're
night.
talking to those degenerates in the audience. Hey,
Well, I guess, Alan, I think you're right. I mean, to me, Detroit's the best in the NFC. By far. The best team in the NFC. I think Green Bay is probably the one team that can push them because I just think they match up well. They're familiar with them. It's not, super crazy, but they just put you in a phone booth. They just put you in a phone booth. And that type of throwback football is what I appreciate about Detroit. And the fighting Dan Campbell's and the biting kneecaps and the whole nine. And I don't think you can underestimate or overstate this. The pressure of being the number one pick in the draft, you know what the expectation. And I think it's fair to say that Jared Goff is playing the way the first pick in the draft is supposed to play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, he didn't play like that when he first got there. So he kind of grew with this team. But all my life, no one ever wanted to play for Detroit. If you played for Detroit, it's because you either got drafted there or they paid you a ridiculous amount of money. I can't turn down this much money, right?
I mean,
But Detroit
now
is a destination.
a Detroit,
And I'm happy for the people of Detroit. Like, I'm happy for them because when you rooted for a loser for that long, and for them to get that close last year, like, Detroit just feels to me, pencil them in for the Super Bowl now. And I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but I like Detroit a lot. That's the best team I've seen.
I'm okay with them being good.
Yeah.
But that's fine. I mean, we're in our 40s, but yes, your point was valid. The Lions have been dog shit for a long, long, long time.
Yeah.
So it's good to see them being relevant and having a system and they're competitive and they're very good. I'm okay with it.
So speaking of being relevant, the Knicks are relevant. The Knicks
Are
are
they?
relevant.
they are.
I know they are. Kidding.
To be fair, nobody was walking into Boston on ring night and beating them that night.
No.
I don't care who you were. You could have brought the 86 Celtics out. They were taking an L that night the way this team was shooting and hitting three. I guess my question, Alan, is the Knicks are playing. I assume they won tonight because last I saw they were up 20.
They were up 30 when I started getting ready.
Okay. All right. So it's fair to say they won.
Play the Pacers tonight?
Yeah,
They beat the Pacers? Oh,
Halliburton didn't get a shot.
okay. Go ahead.
Halliburton is one of the most frustrating players to put money on. I
Yes.
don't know what version of that guy I'm getting. Like, stay away,
Yeah.
fucking Halliburton. If it's a playoff game, I would lay the money. But if it's not a playoff game, that guy's a fucking crapshoot. I've lost enough money on Halliburton's ass. Like, he's on my list. Like, stay the fuck away from him. Yeah. But my question is, they made the trade for Cat. Is that a move you would have made? And regardless of whether or not you would have made the move, now that the move's been made, what's the best case scenario for the Knicks this year with Cat on their team?
So there's a lot here. One, I did notice it looks like Bridges already scrapped that new shooting style that he was trying in the first half against the Celtics. So he's played better. But that's different. I've never been a Cat guy, but since they lost Hartenstein, if I'm running the team, would I have done that? maybe just because he can't be that small and you end up with a lot of redundancy with Dante, even though I personally would have liked to have seen the Nova thing go through. But what I will, so those are a few of my previous thoughts, but here's what I'll say with my most recent data, which was the Pacers game. I've never been a Cat guy, like I just said. Tonight, I hated his game less than I ever had. He definitely showed more purpose, actually getting his body to the rim.
Okay.
Much more focused rebounder tonight.
Okay. He had a double-double last I saw.
Yeah, and it was an effort double-double. Like it was a pushing and shoving people a little bit.
Because that's not a guy, when I do like prop bets, that's not a guy I put down for 10 rebounds. When he played in Minnesota, I could put Rudy down for 10, but I would put him for like 6.
6.
I liked what I saw from him tonight. They so I think I've got myself okay with it. I think I've got myself okay with the Cat trade because, like I said, as I was watching them tonight, I'm like, does Dante really make them any better if he's here? Like, because I mean, him and Bridges are kind of the same dude, and Josh Hart, So it's like
They're
like
interchangeable.
when you think about how minutes work in your rotations, I was like, I think I'm more okay with it than I was.
Okay.
But it was also against Miles Turner, who isn't exactly the most intense
That's another
big
guy.
man in the
Bet
league.
on that guy to get 8, 10 rebounds. That guy will let you down. I'm telling you now, he's on the fucking shit list too. That guy, this 4 rebounds, and I don't care what the odds are. He'll get you that, but anything more than that, you can forget it.
So your listeners should know that some of us gamble
A lot.
We're
lot.
very we're responsible gamblers. None of us are
Yes. Yeah, we're
to therapy for it or anything like
more
that. But
money out here.
some of us like the NBA because we, you can make
Yeah.
ridiculous parlays and occasionally hit them. But
But I will say what my last thought on Towns. It is nice that there's another scorer besides Brunson. You don't just see Brunson throwing his body into the lane every time down.
And was that the idea of it? Because Randall was unreliable physically.
Well, but also you have to remember
And
too,
terrible.
that
and also kind of a black hole when it came to getting the ball. I mean, that was a problem.
well, they also needed somebody in the post too because they lost Hartenstein. So
Well, Hartenstein was obviously part of it, but the thought process
there was a need there.
Yeah, but I guess my thing is, when it comes to the Knicks and the trade, I get why they did it. I just felt the Knicks owed it to themselves to at least see what it looked like before they made the trade, but they couldn't do that because Robinson's out. If Robinson would have been healthy,
Mitchell Robinson,
Mitchell at the 5, Julius
Mitchell
at
Robinson.
the 4,
or Mitchell Robinson,
Bolton at the 3, Bridges at the 2, Brunson at the 1, and then I bring DiVincenzo and McBride and Sims off the bench. That's an 8-man rotation. And Hart. That's a 9-man rotation right there. That's the most Tibbs would ever go anyway. So I feel like the minutes were there. But with Robinson being out for so long, you have to move Cat to the 5. And he's not a tough guy. Like the 10 rebounds he got tonight or whatever.
He's not a tough guy. That's an understatement.
Like Bomani Jones is. He's tall man. He's not big man. Like there's a difference between the two. But now
there's another word I'm thinking of that your dad used to say. I'm not going to say it here, but you know what I'm saying. The Tubbs brothers. You know the word. We're not going to say it here.
My father says a lot.
You know that's exactly what he would have said. Okay?
But,
we're doing this telepathically. You know what I'm saying.
Right, exactly. What's understood.
It's an offline conversation. It's offline conversation, yes.
That means
right. Go ahead about Cat, though. Yeah.
I think I still think it's the right move at the end of the day. I just really wanted to see, based on the run they had last year, I just wanted to see what the Knicks would have looked like with everybody healthy before they made the trade. But I realize they don't have luxury, and I have reservations about Cat at the 5, but in my mind, they are clearly the second best team in the East because I do not trust Philly. And now
Oh,
that
God,
this is
no.
now not playing back to backs, Paul George, my whole life outside of his time in Indiana, he's been hurt my entire life. Like,
Yeah, I
is
can't
Doc
trust
still
you.
coach? Is Doc still coaching the Sixers?
no,
he's in Milwaukee. He's coaching Giannis.
Milwaukee is the
What
one
am I saying?
squad
That's been a while.
where
You're right.
if they got
Never
the
mind.
help with the full
Sorry, I
camp
didn't
with
know that.
Doc and Giannis and
Because we
run
joked about it then. We said, why the fuck would the Bucks hire a guy that really has never done anything except that one time, right?
Most
I'm sorry,
overrated title ever.
Ever. And I forgot about that. That's my fault, listeners.
No.
I do know a little bit about the NBA, not as much as all these guys.
to me, the Knicks are the second best team. It's hard to call
In the
Milwaukee
East, overall, in the East, we're talking.
in the East. Milwaukee is too good of a team to be called a dark horse. So I will say the dark horse team in the East is Orlando.
Hmm.
Well, no. Let me consult Vegas on that. Hold on just a minute.
They're the dark horse. Because Paulo is a real number one option.
Hey, Orlando is 40-1 to win the NBA title right
It's
now
a dark horse.
for futures. I'm not going to take them because that's ridiculous, but they're 40-1 right now.
But could they, if it all broke right, could they make an Eastern Conference final? That's what I think about.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
mean,
well,
Indiana didn't look so bad last year either.
Philly's
so.
10-1 right now.
Philly's
10-1. The Bucks are 14-1. This is to win the NBA.
You're pissing your money away if you pick the Sixers.
So ahead of them in the East is Cleveland is 35-1, and then you get to Orlando. Then you get to Orlando at 40-1. That's the other team in the East.
Cleveland was lucky to beat Orlando.
They were.
Yeah, that did go 7 last year.
Orlando.
They did go 7.
That did go 7 games, which is crazy because you would think. But then they got BJ Bickerstaff's kid around that team.
No, they fired him.
No, they fired him.
I'm so topical on your NBA segment. I don't remember where the coaches go, everybody.
Yeah,
Sorry.
He's in
Hard for
Detroit.
me to
He's in
keep up
Detroit
with
now.
that shit.
But in the West is wide open. Put 16 teams in a bag and shake it out. The first 8 to come out, outside of Utah, and maybe
Denver,
no,
Denver, my Nuggets,
Portland. Outside of Utah and Portland,
Utah and Portland, everybody can ball.
everybody else got a real shot to make playoffs. Everybody.
Yeah.
Hey, what OKC made a fucking statement last night.
Oklahoma City is the highest team right now in Vegas odds. I just looked this up. I think they're 8-1 to win the title.
That's
that's
man,
the highest team in the West.
they're dangerous. They got
your
youth.
Nuggets
They
ass
got
last
youth,
night.
and
They
got
sure
a
did.
little-
I saw the highlights of that. I saw that big Chet kid had some really nice plays in that game.
You wait till they get Hartenstein back and they move Chet to the 4, and it's a massive mismatch.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, everybody. Listeners, the Nuggets are 11-1. Dallas is 12-1. Well, they're both okay. Dallas and Minnesota are 12-1. Denver is 11-1 right now. And OKC's
I'll tell
5-1.
you this:
5-1 to win the title. Oklahoma City.
it
5-1.
won't shock me if Golden State regrets not paying Clay. It would not shock me at all.
It also won't shock me if come playoff time we're like, when he's hurt.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm thinking. It's like
It could go either way, but
He's
all
been-
in all, last night's game was nice. He played great. I felt good for him.
he's the
And
third
even in the post game, he was like, I'm just wearing a different shade of blue. I've got 2. He goes, my favorite color is blue, and it's 2 different shades. So, everybody involved knows it was a professional decision. Golden State needed to wait on the market. He was a little insulted by that, and rightfully so. No hate for his teammates. Teammates have no hate for him. And hell, Buddy Held played great for Golden State the other night. So
I don't disagree with anything that you just said. I think he fits better in Dallas because he's the third option there, not the second option. He's
Yes.
not a second option player anymore.
yes,
He's a third option player, but playing off of Luka and Kyrie, 2 guys who were massively unselfish, and he is a catch and shoot guy. So he fits better in Dallas. but Golden State is the one squad I'm like, I don't see really how they make the playoffs unless somebody else, because Curry's 36 years old. I don't think people really get that. At 36 years old, how much more not how much more. He's played at a certain level and at a certain clip for so long, you can't expect that level on a night-to-night basis anymore. And they don't have anybody, in my opinion, that picks up the slack on that roster. They're all good players. And Kerr's going to give you an offensive system that's going to help you. I just don't see a guy that can go get a bucket when you have to get a bucket.
I think Curry had his swan song this summer in the Olympics. Don't you guys think that? Right? He did really, he kind of pulled him over the hump a couple of times when it got a little dicey for the men's national.
Those last two games.
He pulled it up. His greater days are behind him. He's certainly going to have those magical games where he's going to be like, Jesus Christ,
Yeah, that brings
one
up
of
a
the
good
best players
point.
I've ever seen.
Is that the gold medal game specifically, and specifically the fourth quarter? Is that one of the few times in your life where you felt oddly patriotic? When Steph Curry was going nuts in the fourth quarter, did you feel
I'm the wrong guy? I'm the wrong guy to ask that question.
America, and this is what the fuck we do. And don't fucking ask me or talk to me about anything. This is our sport, and this is what we do. And we got the best shooter that ever lived. And he just
when you wrap it up, when you wrap it up like that, yes, I will 100% back that. But for me personally, it was us at a bar. I don't know, long time ago, watching this kid make shots in the NCAA tournament, and I'm yelling, "This is Del Curry's kid," and I'm like, "What?" My God, it was a moment in time where you remember that little moment, and it's like, Jesus Christ, this is Del Curry's kid, lighting up Duke, damn near beat him,
and now he's 36.
And now he's 36. So
Kansas.
that Kansas. I'm sorry, yes, and now we're old, and he's old, but anyway, no, that was a great moment. I guess my point about Curry is that was an awesome way to go out as far as saying, I'm not saying he's going out because LeBron's still playing, but let's get to that in a minute because I want to talk about my agitation with that, and then we can put a bow on this thing.
No,
but
listen. Honestly, I am convinced that LeBron and Cam Rising are going to retire at the same time.
why wouldn't
It's fair.
And for those that don't know, Cam Rising is Utah's the Utah Utes, the college.
He's been there 9 years, Alan told me.
Yeah. He's eligible for his eighth. He might be coming back for his 8th year of eligibility.
You know how it's fun.
That man,
Alan's face says it all. This disgusts him, by the way.
Listen,
if you guys don't
know
him,
that man
he's
is one of
disgusted by all of this.
I had to leave school. My grades fluctuated, and I took it, and so I lost some scholarship money, and I wasn't going to graduate on time. So my last year wasn't going to be covered. So I took a year off, start working at Nationwide to use tuition reimbursement to finish up my undergrad. And I still got that shit done faster than Cam Rising.
listen. Cam Rising is going to be out here getting tested, prostate, like you tested for his prostate, colon cancer, and all that type of shit. And he will still be the quarterback of the Utah Utes. I'm telling you, I'm calling it right now.
In addition to that, he's gonna have a car dealership that he's been broke NIL deals with
while he's still a player.
Mhm.
the court. That
would be great.
That's what's gonna happen with him. But no, I just feel like that fourth quarter of the Olympics, like watching that was cathartic's probably too strong of a word, but I also felt how special it was to see LeBron, Durant, and Curry, those three players coming together, and they made the plays in that fourth quarter to make that happen. But then the sober realization after they won the game that 4 years from now, those guys are not going to be on the squad.
No, we're fucked. Yeah.
No, well,
we'll probably lose to France. This is what you're saying.
yeah.
I got to be honest, the best players on that team are probably going to be Tatum and Ant Edwards, but show me the American big man that's going to be able to hold his own again. Like, you're talking Chet, and Wemby owns Chet. He just does.
It's not going to be.
Bag, like,
No, it'll be Cat.
It'll be.
It'll
No.
be Cat.
he plays for the Dominican. He plays for the
He does?
Dominican.
That's
Oh,
right. That's
Can't
right.
be him.
And
but
probably Bam out of the Bayou.
Because he doesn't even play now. So you're looking at Chet Holmgren. I don't know. Like, I just don't know. I am convinced France is going to win the gold medal 4 years from now in LA, and there's not a damn thing we can do about it.
Well, there's something we can do about it. There is something we can do about it. I think
You know what?
Wembanyama is fantastic. They obviously have very good players, and I can't think of anybody else besides him.
Unless you bring back AD, you bring back Anthony Davis.
Stop it.
AD's going to be like
Stop.
early 30s at that point.
They're early 30s
AD.
now. They're early 30s now.
AD's not good. We've established this, haven't we?
But let's say he's not suited for the international game.
There it is. Thank you.
I think
Thanks
that's
for
fair.
cleaning
That's
that
fair.
up.
Like
Alex.
That's fair.
Tim
There it
Duncan.
is.
Remember
I know
Tim
this is 4
Duncan
years
flailing
from now.
around,
And I
looking
know-
for NBA bailout calls while
Yep.
we won the fucking bronze medal with the best
Yep.
player on the planet.
And there's no telling
Yeah.
what this is going to look like 4 years from now. So I'll give you that. We just don't know. Somebody could rise up, but based on who we have right now, if you're just looking for size, it could be certainly AD and Bam, and like I don't know what else you got because
Those are your big men. Like,
those are your big men.
Well, I'll tell you who it's not going to be. It ain't going to be Bronny fucking James. He ain't going to be on that Olympic team in a couple of years. So let's talk about that for a minute.
yeah,
What do we think about that? What do we all think about Bronny James in the NBA? Dennis, you go first. You're in the
Okay,
upper
so
right.
here's what I will tell you. I think the Lakers strategically were very smart to get it out of the way the first game. So that way we don't have to talk about this for the rest of the year. Let's just get this out the way. It's the first game of the year. We don't have to talk about it. I am on the fence about it because I see it from two different perspectives. One, to me, it's very clear he's a talented player who works hard. I don't question that. But he doesn't appear to be NBA ready, and I don't think that's a hot take to be able to say that. That being said, he was a McDonald's All-American, and if he doesn't have the heart issue, he's probably on this track anyway, and he probably plays better at USC his first year than what it is. I think the underrated thing of this, and this is what's going to rub people the wrong way, for all of the things, LeBron James is one of the only things in life that has ever lived up to the hype. From the time he's 16 on the Color Illustrated as a junior, to him as a 39 almost 40-year-old man still playing as a top 15 player in the league, he has sacrificed and given so much to the game of basketball. Does the game of basketball owe him this unique opportunity?
Fuck you for saying that. I just want you to.
The game of basketball paid him back when they handed him the 2016 finals.
I mean that tongue in cheek, listeners. Listen, I leave it to Dennis.
I believe that the game owes him something for everything
Dennis crafted a very good thing there, and he's right. Do we owe him something? I don't know. I don't know what we owe
No,
him.
we don't, and here's why. Because despite what happens in Kansas City football games, New York Liberty finals games, apparently, like what has made sports great our whole lives until recently is that it was the last meritocracy left. It's not legacy kids going to Harvard. It's not rich guys handing the business over to their kids.
Mhm.
It's not, those Harvard grads getting AVP positions right out of school because of their dads. If you couldn't fucking play, you don't hit the field. You don't get on the court. If you're not good, you can't play. And that's my only fear with the Bronny situation. If it's our first one of the the Antetokounmpo family thing is another deal, but it's dipping that toe more into there's somebody who's on this team who isn't actually good enough to be on this team.
Mhm.
He's just here because of who his dad is. I mean, that's my issue with it. It's like,
Dismiss that. There's that element is real, but I feel like in a
Thank
weak
you, Alan, for saying that. That's what I wanted to say, but I couldn't craft that.
in a
Very
weak
good.
in a weak draft, because the draft was weak. At the end of the second round, could I take a flyer on a kid? Yeah. I think I'll say this. I don't think any other team would have done this outside of the Lakers. The Lakers have a real history and tradition of making sure their stars are happy, and they
Yeah.
bend over backwards for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
If this is Milwaukee, if this is Utah, I don't know that this happens.
They created a sex room in the old LA Forum
Well,
for a few of those players.
they did, but here's my issue with it. Like you're right, Dennis. Nobody else does this because everybody else could see that the guy who averages 3 points a game for a below average college team probably isn't worth a shit. But also, I mean, I'm being a jackass now, but
No, you're true.
But-
It's true.
but
It's nepotism. Let's just all say it. It's
but-
nepotism.
the other part that's like I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's like nobody else would do it, but it's also because like
Could do it. I think that's the other thing too. Like no one else played long enough to where their kid came up and was talented enough to even realistically be considered. Regardless if you think he was an NBA player or not, it was realistic to consider him as an NBA player.
Pretty sure Michael Jordan said his kid sucked at basketball. That's how he was, because that's the kind of guy he was.
well
One of them went to
alleged-
Illinois, and he wasn't good enough.
Well, the other one went to Illinois, the other one went to like I think Central Florida or something like that.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
really behind the scenes, Jordan was trying to get them on at North Carolina.
Well, I'm
And
sure
Roy,
he was.
and
I'm
Roy
sure he
Williams
was. Yeah,
Roy Williams had to tell him, listen, they're good, they're not great,
Hey, look, Mo.
And-
Hey, look, Mo.
and if
Hey,
they
look,
want
motherfucker.
and if they want to play, they should probably go somewhere else.
Yeah,
And
I
that's why they
gotta,
went elsewhere.
I gotta recruit Sean May, who's pretty good, and he's not. I'm using that name from it's probably around that time.
No,
No,
Sean May,
Rashard
McCants,
like
Rashard McCants, and I was
Rashard
Raymond
McCants,
Felton,
yeah.
Raymond
Like
Felton?
they had a squad.
Felton.
Raymond Felton was on that squad.
Red,
Hey,
Red
squad,
Felton was
Carolina.
good.
Danny Green, I think we just retired. I think he was on that squad too.
Yeah,
Right?
Danny Green. Yeah.
Ray Felton, long line of Minnesota Timberwolves point guards that were decent.
Yes.
that
but
went out to other places.
sorry, but back to Bronny. I think my biggest issue with it is more the propaganda that came with it. And you're seeing all these stories like, oh, all these teams passed on Bronny out of respect for LeBron, so the
no, I'm not
Lakers
buying
could
that.
take him. I'm like, get the fuck out of here with that.
Not buying
Yeah,
that.
that was bullshit.
I
Story
heard that the
came out-
Warriors thought about it. I heard the Warriors
everybody
thought about
track him, and it's not the Lakers. He's going to Australia. Fuck you. He's not playing. Like, I'm with you, Alan. The politics of it felt very AAU-ish to me. So I get the whole. That's just part of the world we live in now. Like, we're not going to be able to escape that. But I think as long as he goes to the G League and he's a functional player and can develop his game, best case scenario, he's a 3-and-D guy, and he carves out a living in the NBA as a 3-and-D guy for 10 to 12 years.
He can't shoot.
Like
He can't shoot though. I mean, unless he's
Well,
developing
got
that
a
three.
record, but there are plenty of guys that couldn't shoot when they came into the league and became good shooters by the time they left. But to me, he's a 3-and-D guy, and if he can do that, he can probably scratch
Right.
out a 10 or 12-year career as that. So long as he goes to the G League and works on his game, because he's not NBA ready today. But honestly, at 19 years old, almost nobody's NBA ready at 19 anyway.
When you just said that, it made me think of a guy that developed into a pretty good player. It's actually his stepdad, Delonte West. If you remember him, he became a pretty good 3-and-D guy and was also kind of a point guard, like
Hold
combo.
on. He's
shooter.
homeless now. He's homeless now. Wait a minute. Wait.
That's LeBron's. That's
Wait,
just,
wait a minute. Wait a minute.
I'm not coming on this show and not saying something stupid. Okay, that's what I'm doing.
Wait a minute.
It looks like the tape for this one's going to run at about 1:15.
Yeah.
So that being said, let's round third and head for home.
Okay.
One last question for you all. Because we all live here in Columbus. Realistically, does Ohio State run the table and get to the playoff undefeated?
Yeah, they can.
I'll be the contrarian. I'll say no. I'll say no. I'll say no.
I mean, they can. I think talent wins 90% of the time, unless you go to Oregon and then they kick the ball to a guy and he doesn't realize that he can actually field the fucking ball. Did you guys remember that one? That was even before
Yes. Yeah.
they did the illegal substitution. It's
That onside kick was, honestly,
stupid. How the fuck does he not realize? And then I got people
I
telling
thought
me
that
they're
was
like,
genius by Oregon to kick it
it
right.
was clearly
No,
genius because
can't.
obviously our players weren't coached to understand the scenario, which was when the ball's kicked at you, you don't move away from it. You can actually fucking grab it.
You could fall on it.
And then somebody tried to give me the example saying, "Oh well, he's not a hands team guy." I don't give a fuck. The ball's going at you. It's in the live game. Just grab this thing.
Yeah, you
Try
got
to
to know
figure
the
it
rules,
out.
right?
You got to know the
Well,
rules.
You're asking an 18 to 22-year-old not to panic in a high pressure situation.
Yeah, in a high. Well, here's what I
Hey,
was thinking
fuck
about.
that. He's getting paid. There's your answer
Well,
to that.
you
He's
can say that.
NIL now. He's
You can
got
say that-
money.
you
Fuck
can say
him.
that
He's an
definitively.
employee now. You do your job, just like I've been doing for the last 29 years. I do a job. I get paid to do it. And somebody doesn't just say, "Oh, we're sorry. You didn't know that was coming your way." I don't care if you're 19. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I forgot to hit that mute button.
Here's what I'll tell you about Ohio State. This is maybe the contrarian opinion. My thought was going into the season, worst case scenario, they're 10-2 at the end of the regular season. With the three games they could potentially lose, they lose 2 of the 3, which would be Oregon, Penn State, and Michigan. Right. I would also argue that potentially we could knock this down to 9-3 because of the way Indiana's playing. So, do I think that there is probably another loss on the schedule for Ohio State? Probably. I could see them going 10-2, finishing the regular season, and still a 10-2 Ohio State team is still making the playoff. They may be a 6 or 7 seed, but they're still going to make the playoff. So I guess
think-
I would be contrarian, and I would say potentially no.
I agree, makes the playoff. I think you'll know if they're going to run. If they beat Penn State, they run the table. I don't think anybody beats them if they beat Penn State. If they lose to Penn State, then I think all bets are off. The Indiana game's on the table. The Michigan game is on the table. They're probably not Big Ten.
No, it's
They're probably.
if they lose to Michigan, Ryan Day will be fired before the post-game interviewer gets to him. This team is
He's
can't
right. He's right.
complete a forward pass.
Their passing
Yeah.
game's horrible.
Without question, you are absolutely unequivocally correct. That being said, given the mental block this team has the last 3 years against that squad, and I'm
they're not tough.
not getting into the whole sign stealing thing because I think it's
Pussies.
overblown. I think it's done. I think I think anytime you don't substitute your defensive line, and you put these kids out here that long, it was bound to happen. It's confluence of events, but
Saban has analyzed. He said Ohio State was trying to get pressure with just their 4 linemen. They barely blitzed all game. So if you're going to not rotate your people and only rush forward the entire time, and then there's your answer.
There's your answer. And their scheme doesn't blitz a lot because 9 times out of 10, to the point you guys have been making all night, the talent outweighs everything. So if I don't need
Until it doesn't. When
But
the secondary gets burned the entire game against Oregon.
even at a well-timed blitz could work it out. So, well, with that being said, thank you guys for jumping on and running the four-corner offense. We haven't done this in a while, so this felt very good to get the gang back together. So make sure you guys all
I'm
rate
already thinking of future segments: Gambler's Corner,
Nick's Corner.
baseball on the '80s corner for
You know.
Alan and I to talk about.
Oh, speaking
Oh,
of which, what's the score on the game? Do we know? Do we have a winner for game
Nobody
one?
fucking cares. We hope both
Wait, is
teams
there a game
somehow.
going on? The season ended the other night.
Well, hold on, the Knicks won. Like, I think
Well, that's what really matters. And sorry I missed Nick's corner due to some technical difficulties.
While we're here,
I covered it. Don't worry.
Yankees in 6 probably is my prediction.
5.
Jesus Christ, you're saying 4-1?
Listen,
I really think Tommy
you know what?
Edman
Actually,
is.
you know what? I just
Tommy
checked it.
Edman just drove in 10 fucking runs in the
I-
NLCS, and he hit 230 this year.
I know. Your
We're
logic
in
is
the
sound.
we're in the bottom of the 10th.
Yeah.
Yankees 3, Dodgers 2.
Jesus Christ, look at that. It's a pitcher's duel, Alan. What do you know?
I'll say this was the World Series I wanted because I wanted the vibes. So I wanted Yankees, Dodgers. I wanted to see all the whole highlights.
New York,
I wanted to
LA.
see- Yeah. Now, I don't care who wins. I don't have a dog in this fight. Although I'll say this, and I'll end on this. You guys know me a long time, and I don't care what anybody says or what anybody thinks. Bonds is the best baseball player I ever saw.
Oh, yeah.
Bonds, to me, is the best baseball player that ever lived until I saw Ohtani.
Shut the fuck up.
Stop it.
Ohtani might really be the best baseball player that ever lived.
Stop it. No. You know what?
No, he's not.
Put this on the agenda for the next one, and then Alan and I we'll deep dive on this. He's a
Yeah.
very, very good player. He's a
all
very
you have to
unique
do is
player.
watch him take some grounders in pregame, and you'll know he's not. Wait, that's right. He doesn't fucking take grounders because he doesn't play the goddamn field. So
ju-
he would be the best player of all time.
So very quickly, yes, he did pitch. Alan's point is very valid. He did pitch at one point, but he doesn't anymore. He may never do it again now that he's in the National League.
That's what I'm saying. It's the pitching.
Although it doesn't matter with the DH, it doesn't matter now because the NL gave up and decided they were going to be
It's
sucky.
different now.
I mean, I get it with the pitching, but he also has stopped doing that, and I assume that's because he's got a rag arm from that last injury. And
I
that's
would think
why
so.
he doesn't even play the outfield because I
He doesn't-
bet
He can't throw the
probably
fucking
can't
ball.
even throw the baseball
No,
from the warning track to the
'Cause
cutoff man.
exactly. Because guess what? He pitched too fucking many innings. There's a reason why these guys don't exist, Dennis, in baseball. Unicorns are not real. Okay? You're either really good at one thing, right? Like Ruth was a really good pitcher until he figured out how to hit the ball and change the game. But he didn't keep pitching. They were just like, all right, you're just going to fucking hit the ball and play right field. That's your job. That's not what. It was a very good thing. The preamble to Ohtani's ascension was nice. He pitches. He plays DH. He plays outfield. He's just a really good hitter. Okay? At the end of the day, he's not going to win 20 fucking games. He's not going to pitch out of the bullpen for you every third day. He's just your defensive designated hitter. That's all he is.
Like when you look at your high school baseball team, your best athletes play shortstop, center field, and pitch. That's what they do.
catch. Well, catch, but that's a different. Not athlete.
Yeah,
but
to
go
a
ahead.
degree.
But
But
not
your
athlete. You're right.
priority is your best athletes pitch, play
Up the
shortstop,
middle.
and center
Yep.
field,
Up the middle.
and then catch.
Yep.
But like, so every single player in the major leagues probably pitched when they were in high school,
Most of them
Probably.
did, yeah. A lot of them did. 80%, I'm guessing,
and
probably did.
but you just stopped doing it because you specialize.
Well,
So put a pin in that. We'll talk about that next time, Dennis.
we'll table that because I acknowledge your arguments based on what I've seen and the dominance at which he operates in both spaces. He's got an argument to me, but we will table that for another conversation. So to that, thank you guys for jumping on. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Make sure to rate, like, and subscribe. I'm speaking too fast. And with that, everybody have a great night. We'll holla at you guys later. And till next time.